Hey y'all, I hope you're well. Welcome to another episode of Healthcare Boulevard. This is a podcast where we shine more light on healthcare, and our goal here is to provide more options to people looking to choose healthcare as a career path, regardless of their background. My name is Sena Kakpomo, and I am your host and creator here. I thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your support. Remember, you can tune in on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Healthcare Boulevard, Dr. William. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, today on Healthcare Boulevard, we have Dr. William, as I've already mentioned. She was my former professor and mentor, and she's now on a different avenue. She's also a PA. So the doctor and the PA and everything, we'll get to know a little bit more about her educational and professional journey as throughout this interview. So I'll go ahead and give the mic to you, not a literal mic, and have you introduce yourself, Dr. William.
Okay. Well, my name is Dr. Monique Williams, and I am the founding program director of the Masters of Science in Community Medicine program at KGI, which is Keck Graduate Institute. My background is in health sciences, education, and research. I studied for my master's degree as a physician assistant from Western University, and received my PhD in health science, education, and research from Trident University. Primary focus of my education and career has really been about educating health careers professionals, anywhere from nurses, PAs, anyone who wants to go into healthcare administration, really working with them to understand how to work with and serve diverse communities, underrepresented communities, underserved communities. Personally, my research interest absolutely involves all of that, anything that has to do with supporting those underserved communities and really addressing health disparities. So anything that includes inequities for increasing awareness for clinicians and providers, and especially patient education, that's what I hope to, have an impact on to improve health outcomes for various communities and populations. So that's
all right. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. So you went to PA school, and this is clearly why I invited you to this portion of the podcast. But there's so much. So let's start with the PA profession. You did your master's degree in PA. Why did you choose PA? What was your earlier? And I know this is only like maybe a year ago, right? Because you're only 21 or something.
I mean,
what was the reasoning or the process to go into PA school for you after your bachelor?
Well, for me, I'm what I would call a legacy. So my father is a physician assistant, and I grew up around physician assistants and understanding the profession because of my father. My father's a graduate from Charles Drew University. And so my whole life, I've gone to PA conferences and, knew his friends who were all PAs, and just really had a heart for understanding the profession and its impact on healthcare. And at the time when he started, it was still a relatively new profession. And so it was still growing and getting to understand, the role of the physician assistant in the healthcare team. And so for me, it was just a natural step in that direction. I had ideas about what I wanted to do growing up, but ultimately I chose physician assistant because I thought it was a great way to introduce myself to healthcare, but also, it's one of those careers that it's always going to be needed. And we see that with the growth of the profession. So I knew for sure, no matter what, I would have a job, whether I stayed in education or went down the healthcare path. For me, education and healthcare are like the two most essential things to any society. So those are two areas that I was passionate about. I was in education prior to going to PA school. And so with my experiences during PA school, I knew that I wanted to go back into education, which is what I did.
Okay. And you essentially went into PA school with knowing full well that you're not going to clinically practice, at least for a long term? Your intention?
Yeah, the intention was more or less, I knew going into PA school, I remember being asked during my interview process, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, coming back to teach. So I knew going into PA school that I would go back into education for sure, because I think ultimately education is where my heart is, but my focus was education related to health and related to health sciences. And so to me, PA was a good way. It offered the flexibility in terms of how the profession is managed. It offered a flexibility to be able to do both. So initially I thought, okay, I would work clinically and teach at the same time. But, you know, in my personal journey, during PA school, specifically during one of my rotations, I saw how certain populations, specifically underserved, undocumented populations, or populations that didn't have insurance, how they were treated very differently than those who had insurance. And so that was a huge red flag for me and a concern about what's happening in our healthcare system. And in some of my interactions with various healthcare providers, they just didn't seem to have the compassion that I thought could really support those populations. And so for me, I just thought, you know what, I want to capture the audience before they get out to clinic. I want to be able to talk to them before they get out there and start to get burned out or start to get, you know, kind of disgruntled about how the healthcare system was running. And I wanted to really embed in future healthcare providers how they could stay passionate and stay committed to this service of really helping those in need. And so that was a really clear indication to me that, okay, I really need to focus and pursue education. Even prior to leaving PA school, I knew that was going to be the primary focus versus clinical care. And so after completing PA school, I was not successful with passing the boards. I have a seriously high level of test anxiety. That's just my own history from childhood and from, you know, my own educational background. I've had test anxiety. And so, you know, but I didn't want to give up on my dream of impacting healthcare and being, you know, being a person that would really support the PA profession, regardless of not working as a clinical PA. And so I continued to go to school. Within less than a year of graduating from PA school, I applied for the PhD program for health science education and research. And it kind of started my journey from there. I started taking on adjunct positions in various healthcare career programs and just taught any and everything related to health and really just wanted to make an impact on those future healthcare providers. And so that's pretty much been the journey. I have practiced, I've worked clinically, not as a physician assistant, but I've been a director before at a wound care center and in a hospital setting and have worked in those clinical settings before. But primarily the bulk of my career has been in the educational realm and specifically higher education. And that's where my heart is. That's where my passion lies. So,
well, thank you. I know from, you know, being your student in the class you thought was, oh my gosh, of course I can't remember the name of the class now.
Health, Medicine, and Society.
Thank you. It felt like a whole lifetime ago. But no, that really was the class for me personally to come and take a breather and just really learn about things that I felt was more it's harder to find in the books in fine print, you know, and it really is a character building and bringing the best out of people as they become healthcare professionals. So that definitely is much appreciated, and it sort of set a different tone for our teaching that we received compared to perhaps others who may not have that part in the teaching. So I know PA used to be a bachelor's degree. So I'm going to ask this question. Was yours a master's program that you did, or was it a bachelor's?
My program was a master's program, and we were the first master's program the first physician assistant master's program for Western University. So we were and actually before it was a bachelor's, it was a certificate program. So most programs at that time were certificate level programs. And some of the schools would partner with other institutions to offer bachelor's degree options for their students. But really, the vast majority of the programs at that time were still certificate programs. And so I remember going to some of the conferences, and there was a big debate about, should we up the degree? Should it be required? Should we change the scope of the profession? And around the time that I decided to apply to PA school, sure enough, it started the movement to make it a master's degree requirement. And then officially, as of 2020, all programs across the country had to be master's level. It was a requirement. So most certificate programs either partnered with a larger university to offer the master's degree, or they had to, withdraw so that they could no longer support the master's level, which was the requirement.
All right.
But my particular programs was specifically a master's program, and we were the first class to graduate with a master's degree from Western University.
Yay! I know all about being the first class. The fun part of that.
Well, we weren't the first class for the university. They had been an established PA program for many years before we got there, but we were the first master's class.
Oh, okay. I see. I see. I'm sure even that had its fun times. Let's call it that. How about so in the more recent years, I would say I want to focus a little bit more on your education side. Can you give us a little bit more a view into your professional life in terms of teaching and your position and what you do instead of day to day on a regular basis?
Oh my goodness.
I know that's a rough one.
Yeah. Day to day is literally an adventure every day. So who knows what's going to happen from the moment I wake up. I just know it's full of meetings and conversations and support for students. So in terms of my educational journey, like I said, before going to PA school, I worked in the K through 12 system, helping in various capacities, and then went to PA school. And after PA school, when I went into the doctorate program, I started taking on positions at community colleges, specifically like CNA programs, LVN programs, any level of nursing or health sciences that I could find. And at the time, they were very specific. So it's very challenging to get into the health sciences at that time because most of the programs were geared towards nursing. And nursing has its own, standards and qualifications that you need to teach within their programs. But I was able to find areas where I could, basically find a niche that I can teach certain classes that were related to health sciences and support either nursing programs or support health administration programs. And then for quite some time, I taught online for University of Phoenix and health careers departments and their health administration program. So that was another way for me to keep those skills, even when I had other adjunct roles or other positions that I was taking on to support my family. And so, you pretty much name most of the colleges or universities in the Southern California region. I think I've taught at least one class. Like
the Dr. William, we had.
Yes. It was, if there was an opening, if there was a class to teach, I don't care if it was morning, noon, night, weekends, I was there because I wanted that experience. I wanted the experience. I mean, I've taught in-home support services courses. I've taught, like I said, LVN, CNA courses, healthcare administration courses. And then eventually I was able to get my foot in the door for PA education and even master's levels health science programs as well. And so at one point I started a nonprofit. At the time it was called Health Education Support Specialist. And I, had a booth up at the CAPA, California Academy of Physician Assistant Conference, and got some attention there because I just wanted to do anything I could to support people who wanted to go into health careers. I just thought it was so important. And so, day to day, it really was just about staying on the grind, like looking for opportunities for me to have an impact because it was what fueled me every day. It was the thing that really excited me about waking up the next day and saying, okay, how many students can I talk to today? How can I make an impact? How can I make a difference? And it really is. I think that's the one thing that I miss specifically about being in the classroom during this pandemic is having that energy of being around the students, and how I operate in the classroom. And I was your professor at one point. And so I enjoyed being around everybody and having those small discussions and small group activities. And for me, that's just the motivator, just looking for opportunities to impact that. And, I think one of the greatest joys for me is having a student come back. Sometimes years later, I'll run into a student that I've, taught years before, and they're like, oh, you made such a difference, or I remember your class, or I remember what you taught me. And that just, to me, shows that I'm living my life's purpose. It just really tells me that I'm moving in the right direction, that I'm moving according to what the plan is for my life. I can't go into regret about what I didn't do clinically, because I know that the impact that I have with students is going to actually have a ripple effect, so that maybe I didn't work clinically as a physician assistant, but the students that I educate are out there carrying the compassion, carrying the empathy, being inclusive, and recognizing how to support diverse communities. And that, to me, is 1,000-fold more than what I could have done as an individual provider.
That's a great way to look at it, for sure. Did you have an issue, or how was the transition essentially from PA? So all of the positions that you described, were you holding those positions while in your program, your PhD program already, or was that prior to that?
Oh, some of them were while I was in it, because I went to the PhD program. I started it almost immediately after PA school, within a year. And so while I was in the program, I worked, as an educator in different arenas. And so, I took time off to have my children. I got married, I had children, and just kind of live life from the PhD program. But because it's a lot, but I definitely worked consistently. And that's what I said, why I said earlier, working online even helped me to stay connected to education when I was working, outside of the home, or when I was during my doctorate program. So I've always worked, always.
Out here sound like Brianna.
Out here just keeping a hustle going at all times. So.
I like it, I admire it, for sure. Okay, so I would. So even though you never work as a clinical PA, have you utilized, and to this day, do you utilize your PA education in your teaching? Do you think it gives you an added view, perspective when you're teaching healthcare professionals?
You know what? I absolutely do. I learned a lot in my program, and learned a lot from my mentors along the way. Some of which were from my PA program that I'm still in contact with today. I'm not going to say how many years it's been, but yes, I learned a lot. And so for me, some of the skills I've been able to keep up, even some of the practical clinical skills, I've been able to keep up because of working with students and supporting students in their training. And so I definitely carry over those experiences. I carry over lots of stories from during my rotations. And, I think most importantly, I carry the empathy for what students are experiencing, because I never lose sight of what it was like for me to be a student, and the support that I needed. Some of the stress that I'm sure you understand, some of the stress you feel while you're a student in a PA program. And so, and trying to balance life with school and everything else, I really, really value that time. And I value the friends that I made in my PA program. I value who I'm still friends with today. I just really value that. So I share those experiences with my students to help them kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. Right. Because as you know, it gets very challenging, and you get to a point where you're like, can I do this? Can I balance it all out? What about school? What about work? What about, family? What about all these things? And I'm just like, trust me, it all comes together, right? Yeah. Look at my example. My path was not easy. My path was not straight. It wasn't perfect, but you just have to keep moving forward. And I use those examples from my experience to help students understand that we can relate to them, and that we do support them as faculty. So.
Yeah, I definitely was a beneficiary of that, because I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning, but you were my actual mentor. Doing the program, I sought out help from everybody, every faculty, but you were my mentor, my go-to. So
Yes, yes.
and I definitely appreciate it. As you know, life was hitting me as well as school, and I appreciated just having somebody treated my concerns as it relates to life as important as PA school, because we can have those instances where it feels like you can only talk to your mentor or your professor
Right.
about school, and anything outside of that they're like, not my problem,
Right.
and
No.
it's like, okay, but y'all commingles, y'all work together. So that is definitely a golden ticket for sure for everybody who's benefited for that, and I am one such person.
Well, I think for me too, in my experience during PA school, I had great professors who, they understood also because they had walked that path as well. And so when we think about advising and mentorship in a PA program, it's a little bit different than like a typical academic advisor because, your path is pretty set in a PA program. The cohort knows exactly what classes they're taking. The curriculum is set. So you're not so much worried about, okay, what class do I take next, or help me figure out what my next move is. You definitely offer academic support as needed, but it really is about finding that work-life balance, that school life balance, and helping them just be successful in various areas of their life. And so I remember as a PA student, going to one of my professors who I just looked up to a lot. She was our adult medicine professor, Nancy Nelson Brown. She was very much, in my opinion, a mentor for me, and just kind of would help answer life questions sometimes when I'm just like, well, what about this? And how do I manage this? And she would help me a lot. But then also one of my mentors that was our dean of the program at the time, Dr. Stephanie Boland, she has been a mentor for me from day one in the program. And really, inspired us to do more and to see a woman who, was from a similar background and who, represented the Black community and represented, professionalism and everything that, to see her as a dean, it made me even want to strive more to say, okay, maybe I can move into these spaces. Maybe I can do more. And she continues to be a mentor for me to this day. I talk to her about my career choices. I talk to her about, life choices. I talked to her about, my experience as an educator. And she actually was one of the first people to provide an opportunity for me to come in and teach at the graduate level. And so, she's been an awesome support. And again, these relationships were built from PA school. And so I, for me, they were role models, and they helped me to establish how I would want to treat students when that time came for me to be a faculty member or to be a mentor or an advisor. And so, you never know how you're going to impact somebody's life, but those relationships are key to help to build a foundation for, how students navigate the rest of their career.
It's very true. Interestingly, I never really had a mentor that I care to visit, to be honest, in my education. Before you, like I had a mentor mess up my curriculum in high school, and I was like, no. And then thereafter, I only go when it's required. And so literally, you are actually the first mentor where I was like, I'm actually proud to call this person a mentor, and I actually enjoy going to their office and talking to him. To be honest, so yeah, even to this day, sometimes when younger folks who are like in community college, like I was, and they're like, "Oh, I went to my mentor. My mentor wanted me to do this." I'm like, "Look up the thing. Look at what you're required to do for your school. Don't always take your mentor's words for it at that level." And I think it's never that's a general advice anyway. But it's just that's a whole different thing.
That's another conversation.
That's a whole different other conversation. But anyway, so as a full-time educator, health educator specifically, what has been some of your hurdles that you've dealt with throughout the years?
I think some of my hurdles specifically as a health educator has been the slow progression of some of the changes that have had to happen in healthcare, specifically as it relates to diverse communities. I think, specifically in the last year with the COVID pandemic, we start to really have a highlight on how the inequities of healthcare really impact communities. And it's not that this is anything new. It's been around for so long, but our approach to it has been really slow to make change. And this is why I'm so proud to be a part of this new program at KGI with community medicine. It's just really important that we start to educate people on how to embrace and learn to communicate and relate to diverse communities, really get a need assessments on what it is that's important and priority to these communities so we can make a difference in their health outcomes. So many preventable diseases, so many things that are very specific to the communities that we're dealing with, the underrepresented communities that we're dealing with. And, we've really had a very one-dimensional way of approaching healthcare for diverse communities. And it's time to really start to, give them a space to express what's priority for them, what, share their experiences, the challenges that they're having with access to care and quality care, being respected and being heard. So some of those social issues for me have been like the biggest dilemma because it's hard to teach that. And I try to teach it and I do my best, but I really want providers to understand that it's not about the textbook medicine all the time, right? Your patients are coming in whole and they have whole lives and experiences that impact their health. And it may not be about, non-compliance or they're just not following the diet or they're just not taking the medication. There could be so many other things that are, interfering with their health. And that's been the biggest challenge. But I'm so proud of what we're starting to see, this shift and this understanding. And unfortunately, it took the pandemic to really highlight a lot of these things. But at least now there's conversations around how do we increase diversity, to bring in more representation from underserved communities to really help support the needs of them, of the population. So that I think has been the biggest hurdle. The day-to-day things, the minor challenges, I'm going to say they seem so major in the moment, but the minor challenges of, am I giving enough to my students? Can I get this paper graded on time? I feel bad because I can't have a meeting right now because I'm scheduled with other meetings and I want to be here to support the students. Sometimes I have to give myself a little grace because there are a lot of competing responsibilities that I have in my personal life as well as my professional life. But I just make it a point to do my best to support students as best as possible. And so sometimes you almost have like that guilty mom syndrome where it's like, I just want to make sure they're okay. I want to do more for them. But, I have to step back and recognize that all of our students are adults and that they will be okay. And they are more understanding than sometimes, we give them credit for. And, I think that's one of the hurdles that I face on a regular basis and just trying to have that balance between what I can do to provide for my students while also making sure that I have balance in my personal life as well. So, but it's my passion.
How do you keep that balance? And that might be more of a personal question for me, to be honest.
How do I keep that balance? That's a challenge every single day. So it's lots of, self-care. I know that's like the buzzword in the last couple of years, but it really is like sometimes I have to just disconnect and I have to meditate and pray and really stay aligned with what I believe is my life's purpose and my life's passion, and remind myself that to take the little wins. I may not be able to always get the big ones, but the little wins add up to really big accomplishments. And so sometimes I'll burn myself out and I'll pick myself back up, right? And it's just like, okay, burn out for a good, strong, solid, couple of weeks. And then I'll take a full day of rest and relaxation where it's like, nope, I'm not answering emails. I'm not grading anything. And so it really is learning when to give yourself that grace and that time to take care of yourself. It's just, and I tell my students this all the time, you have to take care of yourself first and foremost in order to be a good student, mother, wife, husband, friend, daughter, son, whatever your role. We're so tied down with all of our different roles and responsibilities that sometimes you just have to take care of yourself. And I try to say, okay, well, what's important to Monique right now? What's important to me as a person, not as Dr. Williams, not as a director, not as a faculty member, but what is important to me right now to prioritize myself. And I'm so thankful for even my most recent, mentors and friends and family that really remind me of that, to take time to just relax and take care of myself, because I can't do it all. I would like to do it all, but I can't do it all. So, and I encourage any student out there to understand that as well, to give themselves a day to have a break, or to schedule time to really, take some downtime for themselves. There's always going to be more studying to do. There's always going to be more work to do, more homework to complete. There's always going to be competing responsibilities. But if you have to literally schedule it to make it happen, schedule a couple of hours to yourself, so that you really take care of yourself, so that you have balance. And that really will allow you to be your best self when it's time to show up as a student, as a professional, as a parent, whatever role it is that you have in your life. It will allow you to be your best self in those times.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. So right now you are, in my head, you are the big boss. But I'm going to ask you, the big boss mama. But I'm going to.
Oh my goodness.
She's mama, she's auntie, she's everything. So I'm gonna ask you, what's your future professional aspirations and drives looking forward?
I want to keep growing in education. This is a new role for me. So, I'm learning to be patient and, embrace this role as a program director, especially a founding program director for a new program. So there's a lot to be done, but it's really exciting to be a part of this. So I'm trying to just savor the moment, enjoy it while I'm in it. But, long term, I want to continue moving up. I hope to, move into associate dean spaces or deanships and just see where my career can take me. Like I said, looking back on one of my mentors and friend, Dr. Stephanie Boland, when I met her, she was the dean. And to see her in that role was just exciting, because I didn't know any other women that looked like me in those roles. And then to meet her and to meet Dr. Beverly Guidry, who also works at Western University, and then to see the growth of their careers into various spaces and chief positions and vice president positions and all of these things. It's like, I feel like the possibilities are endless. I want to definitely stay within the higher education realm. That is my life's passion and my life's work. So I'm just open. Whatever path is in front of me, I'm really open to see where I can grow. And within this particular role, let's see what the future holds.
That's exciting. Well, I'm excited. I'm here for all the celebrations.
Oh yeah, inviting you to every promotion and then my retirement party. Then my retirement party.
I mean, we live in California, so we can always have a barbecue outside. Okay.
Yes. The one thing too, I wanted to just advise your listeners. I have a feeling that was like one of the questions, right? So
yes, that was literally, I think, my next question.
Yes,
take it away.
I think the one thing that I would absolutely say, and it's not always easy to do, but gratitude is huge. Taking a moment, because we get so caught up on what in this deficit mindset of what we don't have. Well, I don't have this, and I didn't do this, and we didn't do that, or I'm in need of this. And honestly, I think if I had dwelled on the things that I didn't have, or the things that I didn't accomplish, or all of the failures that I've had throughout my life, and trust me, there's been numerous, failures. If I focus my energy on the things I didn't have, I wouldn't make space for the things that I wanted to manifest in my life. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really important to say, okay, this is not ideal. This is not what I anticipated, but everything works according to divine timing. Mm-hmm. And, I think about, okay, I didn't pass the boards, or this didn't happen, or I failed over here, but everything happened according to the divine timing of what my life was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And so I had to be grateful. I'm so grateful for some of my really great girlfriends who are physician assistants, and my ride or die friends. They are just, everything that I aspire to be. I look to my friends, and, they're awesome providers, but they're also awesome women. Mm-hmm. They're mothers and wives, and just, I look at those things. I'm so grateful for those relationships. I'm so grateful for my family, my parents, as inspiration, my husband, my children, and even all of my students. I'm so grateful for all the people who poured into my life in various ways. Mm-hmm. that is my motivation to keep going. And sometimes you have to just look at that and say, okay, I know what I don't have, but look at all that I have. Mm-hmm. And let me stay in a space of being positive and grateful for those experiences. And I think ultimately that's led me to where I am today. It's led me to what I consider a successful life and a successful career, with more to come. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, had I passed the boards, or had I not failed in different areas, or had I succeeded in other ways, I may not be here. I may not have been, your professor at that time, right? Our paths would have been totally different. So I'm so thankful for being a part of your journey, for being a part of, the hundreds of students that I've taught over the years. I'm so thankful to be a part of everyone's journey, because each one of you has had an imprint on who I am and who I aspire to be. So just be grateful. I think gratitude is going to be the biggest key to moving forward and getting the things that you want out of life.
Thank you for that. And I feel like that is an amazing advice, especially since it's essentially, I feel like it's when we all feel like we are the most bottom, that we need the gratitude to sort of look up a little bit and be like, mm-hmm. Okay, I can reach somewhere, I'm not all the way at the bottom.
Well, keep in mind, there are no testimonies without tests, right? If everything came easy, we wouldn't appreciate anything, right? Part of why we appreciate, and part of why I appreciate my life so much, is because I've been met with challenges. Mm. I mean, personal challenges and hardships, professional challenges and hardships, academic challenges and hardships. And so, the reason I'm able to sit here today with you and kind of provide a testimony of where I am today, mm-hmm. is because I had to go through those tests and trials, and I had to lean on my mentors and lean on my friends and family, and, and pray about support and take that time to take care of myself. Like, it all leads to the testimony. Mm-hmm. So don't give up. Like, do not give up. I don't care who you are, where you are, what your current circumstance is. If whatever path you're meant to go down, it may be windy, it may be crooked, it may be off the beaten path, but I promise you, it'll all lead you to exactly where you need to be in the most perfect timing. So
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I mean, I just feel like I can't even ask you any more questions after that. I just feel like that should just like hit the record button, like drop the mic, like that's it. But I am going to ask you one more question, just because for somebody who our paths are, to some degree parallel, and I feel like I'm not unique in that way. I feel like a lot of folks who either met you or spoke with you, or even just heard of your path, or inspired by your path, or find some similarity in that. But I'm going to focus specifically on health education, because for me personally, that feels like a harder thing to get into than clinical medicine, because the path, like you mentioned, the path for PAs or nurses or doctors, it's there. Go to school, mm-hmm. get your thing, do your thing. But in your situation where you want to go a different path, such as education, but either for you as a combination of, you definitely, that's something you always wanted to do, and on top of the board, just your test taking skill, just be like, we're not going to do that today. We're not going to do that. We didn't do it before. We are going to start now. So how would you advise folks who may be following similar paths, either whether they know it now or no? How would you advise that? How would you, somebody who...
So you mean someone who wants to go into health education?
Yeah, health education. Yes.
Well, I would start first by, so for example, like if you wanted to go back into health, if you want to go into health education, or someone who's been part of a health career program, I would start with volunteering your time to support students of various programs, saying, hey, I'm available. Let me know what I can do to help, volunteer to help support your students, maybe tutor as a way to get your foot in the door. When they have workshops, or when they need extra hands to help teach clinical skills or support clinical skills, that's an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself to the environment of looking at it from a different perspective, right? We see everything from a student's perspective, but when you go in to teach or to, engage students in that way, you really are looking at it from a different perspective. So I think to start, I would start with like tutoring, volunteering time, and really getting to know different types of levels of education and figuring out what population you really want to work with. I did K through 12. And for me, I knew high school or above was where I found my niche. I like dealing with older students who really understand, where they want to go, or just have a better grasp of it. Love the babies, but I just didn't have the patience to teach in the K through 6 system specifically. So I think, understanding and really learning about what it is that you want to impart in terms of being an educator. Who do you want to influence? How do you want to leave your imprint? And then finding spaces that allow you that opportunity to do that. Start off slow, start off with maybe teaching one class or tutoring one class, and then kind of building your reputation from there, talking to your mentors and seeking out opportunities that become available. So if there's like an opportunity to teach or be a teaching assistant somewhere, let them know, say, hey, I know you're running this program. I'd love to be a teaching assistant to support your students so I can get my hands into education and just get a foot in the door. I think now I won't say it's easier, but I think there's a lot more health sciences, very broad health sciences programs that are available compared to what it was when I first started in my career. So there may be more opportunities, but the more that you demonstrate that you've volunteered or participated in some level of even patient education, that's a start. Workshops, small things that really engage you in how to deliver material, how to engage students or engage the audience, to understand the importance or the relevance of the topic that you're dealing with. It allows you to put that down on your CV or your resume and say, I'm passionate about, educating. I'm passionate about, serving in this capacity, and then more opportunities become available to you. If you really want to be a higher education professional, you absolutely would have to go back and have either a master's or a doctorate level degree. It's always been my stance that, in order to be very marketable in higher education, a PhD is really one of the most recognizable degrees in higher education, or an EDD, which is a doctorate of education. Those are the 2 degrees that are most recognizable across pretty much any institution. It's not to take away or invalidate any of the other doctorate programs out there, but it just depends on what level you want to work at and your level of marketability for those different institutions, and especially if you want to go into research. And so really doing your homework and research on what you want to do in your profession and what avenues are best for you to take. I think that's the important piece.
Thank you. It seems to me it's a process. Like you said, you can just, get to it and you sort of kind of learn more looking backward than, than forward. But that is all I have for you today. If you don't have anything else to add, I'm going to end it here and say muchas gracias.
Well, de nada. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for inviting me and allowing me to share my journey and my story. And please don't hesitate. Anything I can do, even though you're not my student anymore, I will continue to be a mentor for you. I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you. And anything that you want to do in your career, I'll be behind you 100%. So
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. You already know I'm gonna be, your DM like, please, Mama, Auntie, Dr. William, help me. This is what I'm thinking. So this will happen, okay?
Yes. Mrs. Catpomore.
Yes, that's my name.
All right, ma'am. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. Have a beautiful evening. Well, it's still daytime. Have a beautiful day. How about it?
Afternoon. I'll have a beautiful afternoon and evening. All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right. That's all I have for you today. Thank you again for joining me. I appreciate you. Please subscribe, follow, like, comment, and share. And stay blessed.